And now, ladies and gentlemen, right to your host of this House of Musicians, Barry Smith.
Hey, fine listener. Welcome to this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101. We hope you enjoy the next hour with us as we do our small part to help promote musicians, bands, and venues. Gary LaBarr, how are you, sir?
Trying to stay warm.
I am trying to stay warm as well. It's definitely cold out. Looks like it's going to be a little warmer tomorrow here where we live in southern Ontario. And it's definitely freezing damn cold out there, that's for sure. But that's expected this time of year. We tonight, folks, we were going to have Greg Fraser from Brighton Rocks, founder of Brighton Rocks, and talked with Greg. But something has come up, and we're going to reschedule Greg. Really looking forward to that interview. He's a seasoned musician and has had a wonderful music career. So tonight, I'm going to talk with two producers and two musicians. That sounds like four people, but it's really two people. Me and Gary LaBarr and Dave Clayton are going to talk music and promote ourselves as far as a song that me and Dave once recorded, and Walker's K, which is Gary's band. So, Gary, say hi to Dave Clayton.
Hey, Dave. It's a pleasure. I haven't seen Dave in person in a long, long time, but always a pleasure, lucky. Dave. Yeah, always a pleasure.
How's it going, guys? Sorry, I was busy getting drunk.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's allowed.
Yeah, thanks.
Almost want to.
Well, thanks for being on the show, Dave, and thanks to Barry for having us both on the show.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's good to touch base with you guys. Like you said, Gary, I haven't seen you in, it's got to be a few years now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, yeah, these zombies out there wandering around are really screwing everything up.
Yeah, right. So...
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, you know what? We need to have zombies in the world or there would be no TV.
True.
Gotta have zombies.
Gotta have zombies. Sometimes sometimes my wife would say I walk around like a zombie.
Do ya?
Sometimes. Ask my wife.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question. Go ahead, Bear.
Yes. No, go ahead.
I got a question. Now, a lot of folks listening know you're a professional roofer, and you've been doing it for many, 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 many years.
31, yeah.
31. Whoa, man. Still
on the roof.
And still on the roof. You're not the old man hanging down yelling at people. You're up there working.
Each and every job, I'm on the roof because my motto is make sure it gets done right.
That's right. And so if someone did call you in this weather... I think I've asked you this question before, but if they did and they wanted a roof on, would you do any type of work in this weather?
I remember about 3 years ago, I did a roof in Midland, Ontario, and it was around this time of year. It was, a guy said, I'm building a cottage. It ended up being a 3-story mansion on a lake in Midland, and let me tell you, the weather was like this, and every morning when it wasn't this cold, I even went and bought special clothes to do the job, to work on the roof. But every morning we were brushing 2 to 3 inches after leaving the hotel off the vehicles to get to the job. So I have worked in this weather. The answer is yes, I would do it if it's not an emergency. This was, of course, a new roof. If it's not an emergency, I probably would hold off and patch if there was something leaking, but it's damn cold out, and it hurts. So I have done it before, and the question is yes, if I had to.
Okay, so, but if you put, let's say, asphalt shingles on, I know that in the summer and everything, when the heat bounces on that roof and stuff, it helps to seal the shingles properly. Does that make a major big difference in the winter when you do that? If we don't get the sun and the heat to, put those shingles down?
For the Cambridge shingles that I use, it doesn't take much for them to stick. You need 3 or 4 degrees, a sunny day. But in general, no, in the winter they won't stick. So I always 6-nail my shingles anyway. I just did a job up in Huntsville and glued the shingles as well as nail them. It was probably a 412 pitch, and I didn't want to go back up to do any wind damage repairs. So I would on a smaller thing probably glue them, but yeah, I haven't had very many problems. Maybe over the 31 years, 1 or 2 blow-offs due to doing roofs in the winter. Not complete blow-offs, maybe like a half a bundle of shingles and go back and repair it. So, yes, we still work, and roofers still work in this weather.
Holy crap. Well, I was curious. That's it. So, all right, I'm done. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, now we just to tie it all together, you need a roofing song, right?
A roofing song.
Then we're going all full circle here, and it's all relevant.
I think Gary's asking me because tomorrow I'm going to start his roof,
no.
whether he likes it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm going to charge him double because it's this cold out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right.
Well, folks,
I still need a roofing song.
Absolutely. Folks,
and Miss Misty here agrees.
Well, hi, Misty. Hi, I know Misty's with you because I called you earlier, sweet Misty, and your sweet wife. And is Lawrence there as well?
Lauren is not here, so send the roofing song out and dedicate it to Lauren.
There you go. Absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, let's start the show off. We're gonna do a music show. We're not going to talk politics. We're not going to talk religion, and we're not going to talk COVID. Let's talk about music. And I'm just going to start now. We're going to, like I say, not brag, but promote ourselves this evening. About Walker's Cay, which is Gary's band, and my band Inner City Outlaws that I've had for 30 years probably, and a song that me and Dave Clayton wrote and recorded at Sideman Studios for our riding group. We'll also talk about our riding group, but let's start off with a little bit of today music history. And 1958, on this day, Elvis Presley released a single Jailhouse Rock. It was put back a week after Decca Records pressing plant in the UK were unable to meet the advance orders of 250,000 copies. Some of the characters named in the song are real people. Shifty Henry was a well-known LA musician, not a criminal. The Purple Gang was a real mob. Sad Sack was a U.S. Army nickname in World War II for a loser. Okay, let's start with Dave. Talk to me about Elvis, man, and how you knew about Elvis or grew up, or what age you found out about Elvis, because of course he was the king and we all adored him when we were young.
Yeah, just like the Beatles. My dad I love the fan. I was not.
Yeah, go ahead.
My dad was a huge fan. I was not. I have an unpopular opinion on both of those guys. So yeah, what can I tell you?
Shame on you.
There's a whole lot of people who influenced Elvis's music that I am massive fans of, right? And you hear tons of their sound through him, but I wasn't necessarily a fan of his. I think he was the commercial manifestation of these other people's talent.
Yeah, but you know what, man? For me, Elvis and the Beatles pretty much created the rock scene in my eyes. Now, there were rock bands around the same time, but they were probably the famous ones that actually created right up to today what we have. Just my mere opinion. Gary, how did you and Elvis fare?
Well, Elvis was pretty popular in my house because I'm older than you guys, and and I have 5 siblings too. So I liked some of his older stuff. When I was a little kid, he was very popular. But I think the Beatles, I really was influenced by them. Their old stuff, their very first, bunch of songs. When they started getting into a lot of the more moderner sound or the drug-infested, type of sounds, I was turned off by that. I like their old, clean-cut kind of stuff because the harmonies of those songs, the way they were put together, the way George Martin produced it, they were more of a, I would say, a little bit more influence on me than Elvis was.
You know what, Gary? I'm a little bit younger than you, and I would have to say that I like the psychedelic Beatles a lot more than the older stuff. So that's what makes the world go around. The younger stuff for the Beatles was like more like Buddy Holly and that kind of 50s kind of bebop kind of music. Whereas when they got into their Sgt. Pepper's and psychedelic stuff, man, that stuff blew me away. But that's, like I say, that's what makes the world go around. We all have different opinions on, of course, that, but definitely big influences on a lot of musicians, both. And did you know, I'm sure everybody knows this, but they actually cut off TV from the waist down when Elvis first started because it was offensive for him to shake his hips. Can you believe how short of a time ago, 40, 50 years ago, and now where we are now with the stuff that's on TV and the kind of music and videos that are out there compared to we can't show them below the waist, man. Isn't it just incredible?
Well, it is incredible, but that's the way times have changed over many decades, right? And it's just, they thought back then it was absurd and vulgar and all that kind of stuff, and now, that's nothing.
You think there's a lot less class now, Dave, Clayton?
It was only 20 years ago that Dee Snider was testifying before the PMRC in Congress. It was only 20 years ago when Ozzy Osbourne walked in with Frank Zappa as his representative/lawyer to argue with the PMRC about about censoring rock and roll lyrics. That wasn't all that long ago. You know what I mean? Just to further your point, right? That thing starts rolling downhill, man. It gathers moss like nobody's business.
You're funny you bring that up, Dave. On my first album on Atlantic with my band Craze, we wrote a song called "Don't Take the Music Away," and it was about the PMRC movement. And that's the Parent Music Resource Center. And it was wow. You're right. What a time, telling folks.
At the end of the day, for all their blustering, what did their only victory was getting that warning label on. They didn't even succeed in the ratings. The ratings came later on, but the PMRC, all they succeeded in doing, with all their blustering and noise making, mainly Tipper Gore herself, was getting that warning, explicit lyrics sticker on the front of the albums.
Album sales speak volumes. Album sales speak volumes.
Well, that sticker wound up selling more albums than anything else. What teenager doesn't want to listen to the music with the bad words in it?
Isn't it funny that you say that? They stick a sticker on there that says, rated R or whatever, violent content, and they sell more albums because of it. It's like the hierarchy of just not thinking straight.
Yeah, man, it's that car crash you can't drive by without looking at.
So, absolutely. So that's incredible. Let me move forward with saying Dave's favorite band, the Beatles, recorded their first national TV show, Thank Your Lucky Stars, in 1963. On this day, they mimed to their new single, Please Please Me, which was released on this day. So on this show, they actually mimed. They could have been the first people to mime, or one of, at least, back in 1963. Man, that seems like so long ago. So that's kind of cool. They mimed Please Please Me. Johnny Cash in 1964 came out with Ring of Fire. The Best of Johnny Cash became the first #1 album when Billboard debuted their country album chart. It was his 16th album in total and first compilations album by Cash. So Johnny Cash was a huge influence on me when I was younger. My dad was a huge country guy, so that's what I grew up with, big influence on myself. Johnny Cash, were you a country guy, Gary?
I do like some country. Cash I liked. He had a very unique voice, that tenor type of voice. However, a lot of critics used to say, he wrote some really good songs, but he was not, believe it or not, much of a good singer. He used to sing flat all the time on his records and live, but he came up with some concepts. I kind of liked it when he started getting more in his Baptist preaching type of songs, and I really like that. So I gave him a lot of credit for that kind of stuff. So overall, I'd say, I'm sort of a fan of his, for sure.
Yeah, and he also started that chugging with the two strings on an acoustic or an electric, dong, tuk-a-dong, tuk-a-dong, almost every song, man, and that works.
Yeah,
That worked.
for
That
sure.
chugging.
For sure.
That country chugging. One of the first things I learned on guitar was how to chug. Like the guitar player for Johnny Cash. Geez, I wish I could. His name just slips my mind, but that's one of the first things I learned how to do was chug that E and A string and D and A string and whatnot on an acoustic guitar and chug like the Johnny Cash style. And he did it in a lot of songs, man, and it had a lot of heart and feel.
Yeah, and we would call that today in the rock world. We call it pedal toning. And
okay, there you go.
Yeah, and he did start a lot of that, and he could probably, if he was still alive, he could probably take credit for a lot of the chunky rhythms that are in rock and roll today.
Agreed. And Dave, did your parents listen to country? Did you, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson?
I did. Yeah, I liked a lot of that stuff only because my taste in music. The only thing I think that's been consistent with my taste in music, it crosses a million genres from fusion jazz to blues to rock to metal to everything. But the one thing that's consistent is I'm a big fan of storytellers, right? So when you start talking about guys like Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings and even Boxcar Willie and et cetera and so forth, Bobby Gentry, et cetera, these are all people who told stories with their songs. They could transport you, you know what I mean? It's not your crappy little doo-wah song that has no real meaning to it, but it's got a catchy bridge, right? I like those stories. You bring it into the more modern metal of the 80s and whatnot, Iron Maiden with songs like Rime for the Ancient Mariner and things like that really, really tell a story. You know, they can go on for 10, 15 minutes. I love that stuff. You know, and those guys back then were able to do that in, 2, 3, 4 minutes.
Absolutely. So many people, Bill Anderson, like you say, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash. And that's the one thing I love. Like, I was raised on the country music, didn't start getting into Led Zeppelin and Floyd and all that till I was in my probably mid-teens or late teens. But all I knew growing up as from a baby was Charlie Pride and that country music stuff, man. And it really has a big impact in my heart still to this day. There's nothing like putting on a Charlie Pride vinyl album and listening to that 1950 or 60 recording on a vinyl album of Charlie Pride. There's just something about it that's magical.
The story's moving. You go even like Leonard Cohen, right? And that's about as far from country as you're going to get. But if there was ever a storyteller in music, it would be Leonard Cohen, right?
So many people.
It's just magic. Let me ask you something though, just to throw a bit of a curveball. Because I know you like teasing me about the Beatles and all that stuff. But if I was to ask you, who's your least favorite band of all time? What's the one band that pops to mind first?
Guns N' Roses, probably.
Really?
That's probably a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but
no, I totally get that.
Probably there's a few. Probably Guns N' Roses. I could probably name 10, and I'm not saying they're my number one dislike group, but they're up there in the top 10. Guns N' Roses. I don't know what it is about them. I don't know. I remember when I was a teenager being at a party and some girl played this cassette tape of Guns N' Roses. It was a bootleg or something, and said, "You watch, one day these guys," nobody in the party even heard of them. "You watch, one day these guys are going to be huge." And sure enough, it happened.
There's got to be, well, I guess that is it then. So there's got to be that one band, even for you, Gare, where if they come on the radio and like, I know there's a couple for me where if they come on the radio, I either slam the radio off or change channels real quick.
Yeah. Yes, I have to agree, Dave.
You know, they are like, for me, it's Culture Club, number one. They're just, oh my God, they are to music what Hitler is to a bar mitzvah. You know
who's that? Who are we talking about?
Boy
Culture
George.
Club.
Culture Club. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
And right behind them is Billy Talent. And maybe for the same reason as you as Guns N' Roses with Axl Rose's voice, that guy who screams for Billy Talent is just, I just can't take it. I just can't take it.
Well, I don't want to be hating on bands. For me, like, I love Slash. I think he's a great guitar player. I love his style, love his look. I love stuff that he's done, after Guns N' Roses and whatnot. But I want to give credit to any band that can get a hit or be successful or have a song on the radio or even just sell 10,000 copies of anything. Cahoots to anybody that can do that, and I'm happy for them all. So that's one thing I definitely want to clarify. Good for them. That's all musicians' dreams, I think, in a way, is maybe not to be rich and famous, but at least to be acknowledged somehow, or have people have play live and have a lot of people in the audience. It's rare for there's so many bands out there, and it's rare to have so many people in the audience that will come and sing your songs. So that's got to be a pretty special feeling. It's never happened for me, although I've been a musician all these years and probably have 50 original recorded songs online. It's never happened to me. Sure, I did the bar scene and all that, but it's got to be quite a feeling to walk off a stage and have a natural high of having 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 50,000 people singing your songs, man. That's got to be just the buzz of a lifetime.
Yeah, I will give Billy Talent that much, at least. As much as they're not my cup of tea, at least they're not a pure product of the marketing machine. I have actually seen them live and stuff, and they are decent on stage and whatnot. If there's one thing that gets on my nerves, and I bet you guys must agree with this, if there's one thing that gets on your nerves is you psych yourself up. You're so looking forward to go to see somebody for the first time live in concert, and you go and see them, and they sound horrible. They don't sound anything like they did recorded, because they don't have the 78 tracks. They don't have the overdubbing. They don't have the the auto tune. It's so disappointing. I hate that. I love it when you go see well, I know you don't like them, but a Motorhead or a Van Halen or whoever, you go see them and they sound just the same on stage as they did on their CD, right?
Yeah, I love Van Halen. Motorhead, I love Lemmy. I'll tell you, me and my wife have seen probably, I don't know how many concerts. We go to almost every one. Back in the day when concerts were happening, before the Zombies came, we went to almost every concert. I have T-shirts from every concert. I framed the T-shirt, has a date and everything on them. But I just will say, I kind of never was a huge Judas Priest fan, but liked a couple of their songs, thought they were a good band, good singer, good original music. But when we saw Judas Priest live in Oshawa, it was so loud that we could not defer any of the musicians on stage. You couldn't listen to anyone and pick out what they were playing. It was a mess. It was so bloody loud. So that was probably the most disappointing concert that my wife and I have ever seen. TJ, is probably Judas Priest, only because they were so loud. There's something to be said about bands that play quietly, or at least not blaring. And for me, it's always been about the notes you don't play, not all the notes you can play. It's always been about the notes you don't play that make a supreme band. But anyway, again, not to knock bands. Of course, Judas Priest have great recorded material, and I love a lot of their stuff. But would I go see them again? Only because they were so loud. I would not.
It depends, right? And a lot of it is the genre of the music as well. I know the loudest concert I ever went to in my life was a Motorhead concert down at the old Coliseum on the CME grounds. It was probably 2 weeks before the ringing finally fell out of my head. It was just, I swear they brought their full Wembley setup to play, the Coliseum.
Hey man, it's okay. It's okay if it's loud, if you can understand it. But when we watched this show, you couldn't understand anything. You couldn't understand anything. You couldn't understand Lemmy on a good day. Never mind. Good old Lemmy, you gotta love him.
I am shopping in
apparently, I'm in my basement, guys, and apparently Miss Misty's down here doing her grocery shopping in my basement. So just figured y'all needed to know that.
That's great, man. That's wonderful. Hopefully she's gonna chop up some onions and make you something to eat.
I don't know what the hell's going on around here. I've completely lost control. Not that I ever had any.
You know what I want to do? I want to talk about something that me and you did, Dave, recently, or a couple of years, 3 or 4 years back. I can't remember. Geez, time goes by fast. Before I do that, I want to just say this because it's pretty damn cool. On this day in 1967, the Jimi Hendrix Experience recorded Purple Haze at the Lane Lea Studios in London. Hendrix later stated that the Purple Haze was about a dream he had and that he was walking under the sea in concert. Hendrix sometimes substitute lyrics for comic effect. Excuse me while I kiss the sky was rendered, excuse me while I kiss this guy, while gesturing towards his drummer, Mitch Mitchell. I mean, Hendrix, man. Let's just briefly touch on Hendrix. overrated. Is there such a word? I don't know. He was the master of this new thing, playing his guitar, right-handed guitar upside down, mastered what came of heavy metal, probably from Hendrix and whatnot. Absolutely amazing. Let me ask Gary what your thoughts are and what you were doing when you first heard Hendrix, because I know he blew a lot of people away.
Well, yeah, I like, he was very innovative, and my oldest sister actually was in Woodstock, and she saw him live.
Wow.
I was 14 when my parents wouldn't let me go, but anyways, she took some pictures of everybody, back then, the film. So I remember seeing some pictures, and all I was so impressed with on stage, when she had a couple of shots of him, and it was kind of side shots, side stage, all you would see is these wall of Marshalls, old Marshall amplifiers. And I was kind of impressed with that. That was his brand to go to, I guess, back in the day. But he was an innovator, and he was very good at what he did, and a very soft-spoken, very nice, in a lot of interviews I've seen since, obviously on YouTube and stuff, very soft-spoken, very nice man, the way he communicated. So I kind of liked a lot of the stuff he did.
Absolutely, me too. Absolutely loved it. I'm just going to briefly say that a friend of mine, Seb Agnello, who had a band called the Lords of London, who we've had on the show. He lives in Toronto, opened up for Jimi Hendrix, believe this or not, and ended up hanging out with Mitch Mitchell after the gig. And I think he brought Mitch Mitchell back to his mom's place. That's how young these guys were at the time. And his mom might have cooked Mitch Mitchell some dinner. So way to go, Seb, man. Just amazing to open. Can you imagine? He's still around to say I opened for Jimi Hendrix. Jesus. Excuse my language.
Wow.
That's a very cool thing to be able to say.
Man, isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Dave, let's talk about Chrome Flyer. So we are in this riding group called Harley Davidson Riders of Canada, Dave and I. There's about 6,000 members now. It's about 10 years old, this riding group. Everybody is wonderful. People, there's a stereotype on bikers, always has been, as there's a stereotype on heavy metalhead people, but or musicians or whatnot. But we this group, that we ride with, Harley Davidson Riders of Canada. They raise money for sick kids. We all raise money for sick kids. We're up over 148,000 right now in 10 years that we've raised for sick kids. All of our swag that we sell, stickers, swag. Now we have 5 different kinds of beer, HD Rock beer that we sell, and all of the money that comes from selling, portions of the money from the beer and all of the money from the swag and everything we sell goes directly to sick kids. So Dave one day wrote, and I want to thank Chris Palmer and Kim Palmer, who are 2 people that just came out of nowhere, showed up at one of our rides one day and came out of nowhere and took on the role of basically running this group as far as counting goes, and making stickers and collecting swag, ordering swag, like a numerous amount of effort that Kim and Chris Palmer do for this group and other people as well. Far too many to mention, but I just want to say cahoots to Chris and Kim for doing everything that they do. They have made this group what it is to this day. And of course, all the members are the people that make the group as well. But Dave, we were together one day, and you came up with a bass line. I don't know if we pre-planned that we're going to write a song for our riding group HD Rock or not, which stands for Harley Davidson Riders of Canada. But I know you came over with your bass, and you actually created this song on your bass. And from there, I put guitar and vocals, and we recorded it at Sideman Studios with Bill Ritchie, Steve Burnett, and you playing bass, Bill Ritchie playing lead guitar, Steve Burnett playing lead guitar, which I want to talk about in a second, and Angel Ritchie playing drums. What a blast we had in the studio, man. Talk to me about Chrome Flyer before we play, because we're going to play the song for you folks, but talk to me about it for a bit, Dave.
Yeah, the way I remember it, wanted to record something. We kept doing we had started doing the Big Shoot ride, right? But at that time it was the CHUTE, because we went up to the Big Shoot in Midland, right? And that was the Big Shoot ride. And then I came up with the idea of doing the video for it and using that as the yearly video thing. So I remember you and I talking, deciding we wanted to do a song to go along with the video, right? But we had no idea really what. So we got together and sat in your basement that day. And I don't remember if the first time was if it was just you and I honestly don't remember that. I remember the three of us, you, me, and Bill, sitting there just goofing around and stuff just kind of coming together and saying, okay, that works. Let's go with that. Right. And and building on it from there, and then going into work with Doug and Angel and recording it. But, and I remember, getting slapped on the back of the head a million times over by Bill saying, that doesn't work. Try this.
Yeah, well, you know what, man? You're a hell of a bass player. One of the best I've ever played with. There's a lot of great musicians I played with. You're one of the best, Dave. And I didn't even know you played bass back in the day when we started riding our motorcycles together and met each other. I was totally shocked and surprised when I found out that you played bass, and even more shocked and surprised when we got together and started playing, because I was like, holy crap, a lot of people say they can play an instrument. This guy can play an instrument. So I remember it basically the same way. Of course, my memory is completely always foggy as hell. But I know that you started the riff for this line on your bass, for the song on your bass, and then we went ahead and recorded it at Sideman Studios. Doug Duvall, what can I say? May he rest in peace. He just recently passed. Angel, the drummer who's drummed on so many of my songs. What a sweetheart. Amazing drummer, amazing singer, amazing keyboard player. She is one tough animal. I'll tell you what.
Yes.
She was with Bill Ritchie, and he passed. Bless his soul, he passed of cancer, but he played guitar on a lot of my stuff, and Bill and Angel were married. And then Bill passed, and a couple of years later, she hooked up with Doug Duvall with Sideman Studios, and he passed right in her arms as well in the studio at like midnight one night. And just absolutely shocking and devastated. This girl is tougher than nails. She's still out there playing. She's still out there. I just don't know how she does it, man.
Well, she certainly has a knack for picking talented guys.
Yeah, no question about that. And let's talk about Doug Duvall. Go ahead.
I never got to know Doug as well as I would like to. The only time I really knew him was when we were in there recording Chrome Flyer, but it was a blast whenever we were in there. And if there's one thing I learned about the guy, is he was kind of a musical jack of all trades, but he wasn't a half-assed anything. Everything he knew how to do really freaking good. And it comes off. I mean, you listen to Chrome Flyer, and I mean, it's just us goofing around and whatnot. But man, he made that thing sound as good as it possibly could. I'd put his mastering capabilities up against anybody's.
I agree.
The guy was amazing.
For the hackers that we are, and we went in and recorded this, and geez, I slipped my mind what I was going to say. But what a musical genius, an amazing guitar player. Everybody wanted him on stage in their bands to play guitar, and everybody wanted big names have recorded. He's had recording material like from Dwight Yoakam and big names in his studio in Oshawa, recording stuff and producing stuff. So we love you, Doug. And again, may you rest in peace. But I want to play this song here that we wrote called Chrome Flyer for our riding group. Again, Dave Clayton is playing bass, and we have Steve Burnett playing lead guitar. And what I love about Steve and Bill, they're both in there with their electric guitars on this song. If you listen carefully, you can tell they're trading off back and forth licks, because there's a lot of guitar in this song. And we made the song extended because we did a video to dedicate to our members of our group. So what we did was, the song's a long song, or 8 or 10 minutes, but we put that in a video of pictures of all of our members that came on our ride, which you can find on YouTube. The song's called Chrome Flyer. You can find it on YouTube. And we dedicated it, again, we dedicate it to the members in the group by showing pictures of them and video of them riding and whatnot with this song. That was the purpose of making this song. So, folks, let's go ahead and have a listen to the song that Dave and I wrote. Again, Angel Ritchie on drums, Bill Ritchie playing guitar, and Steve Burnett playing guitar. I want you to specifically listen to the trade-off of the electric guitars that they're each playing back and forth. They were actually standing together. It was like they were talking to each other with their guitars when we recorded this. Folks, this is this House of Musicians radio show. You're going to hear Chrome Flyer from the Inner City Outlaws right here on this House of Musicians. Right here on Reality Radio 101.
Okay.
Blue skies, black top, I'm all ready to cruise.
back fine. Listeners out there, we just heard something that Dave and I worked on, recorded a few years back called Chrome Flyer. Dave, I just want to say the bass in that song is very prominent. It's right out there. I absolutely love it. I want to know what gear you were using.
Oof. What the heck was it?
Do you remember?
I was actually, while I was playing, I actually went back through my old photo archives to look up the pictures we took that day to make the video, and their date stamped March of 2014. So that's not right to you?
So that's what, 8 years ago. Holy smokes, time goes by quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the files say, so I'm guessing it's not lying.
What guitar were you using?
That was, well, there was no pedals on it or anything. It was straight into Doug's board there. It was just my old PV Foundation S active bass. I bought that thing brand spanking new in 1996 or something like that. And I still have it to this day. I love it. It's a great, it weighs a metric shit ton. It's not something you want to wear on stage because you'll completely lose feeling in your left arm before the first set's done. But yeah, no, I love that thing. And that's what it was. And like I said, it was raw right into the board, so there's no effects or anything.
Yeah, well, what makes that song what it is as well. Not only Steve and Bill playing the guitar and Angel playing the drums, and what a sweet drummer she is, and doing the harmonies, but the bass really stands out in that song, and that's nice to see. Sometimes you hear a song specifically in maybe hard rock or rock, and sometimes the bass is not very prominent, but it is in that song. So we had a blast doing that tune, and it's nice to have it recorded, something to look back on forever. So that's great.
Well, I remember when we were jamming, and it was the one goal, like I said, I think that we had in mind was that we wanted this to be the video that went along with the year look back thing video, right? So I had this thing stuck in my head that I wanted it to be some sort of like driving ZZ Top-ish kind of bass line to it, right? To give it that kind of riding feel that I find synonymous with riding anyway. And I don't know if we necessarily pulled that off, but I think we pulled it off in the sense that it is a driving rhythm, but it also has a bit of that whimsical element to it that I think is what binds HT Rock together, because no matter what happens in the group with our friends, and friends come and friends go, and tragedies happen and all kinds of things like that, but it's the collective sense of humor and camaraderie that gets people through it, right? It's always things like that. And actually, while I'm on that subject, I could mention one thing here, and part of the reason Misty's over here today is today's the anniversary of Trapper's death. So we're just sort of raising a glass to him and remembering him.
Absolutely. And what a guy, man. I remember when I first met him, absolutely genuine guy, and may he rest in peace as well. Boy, as the time goes on, more people certainly go to heaven, don't they? Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing to wake up every day and be able to keep breathing. It's just a treasure all on its own. So yes, definitely rest in peace, Trapper. He was a great guy to ride with. If you're out there listening and you're one of the HT Rock, especially from back in the day, raise a glass to Al tonight. Absolutely, and that's what we'll do. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about music and talking about what we recorded. Man, time goes by so quick when you do this show. And I don't mind going late. If Gary and you don't mind going a little late, that works for me. Because now I want to talk about Gary LaBarr. Now, this guy has far outreached anything that I've ever done in the music business. Hails from New York City, has had number one songs. Gary, tell me about your music career, man, and when it all started, and the things where you've been and what you've done. Let's talk about Gary LaBarr.
You put me on the spot. Well, there's not much really to say. I mean, I when I was a firefighter paramedic in New York, I always was into music, and I started to learn to play guitar and everything like that. And I decided I want to do that for a change of, a profession, I guess, a career. And my family thought I was crazy and stupid and putting all that down the drain after 10 years of working as a firefighter. And I did it, and I said, I'm going to put this band together, and I started talking and putting ads out and this and that, and put some things together and started writing some music from, basic 2 or 3 chords. And we decided the band was called Craze, Krayz, and we decided to enter what they had a competition called Rock Wars in New York City, Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, and we entered it. And it was like a 3 or 4 or 5 month, competition. Every weekend you'd play against 3 or 4 other bands. And we played and we just kept winning. And so finally we entered the national contest you guys probably remember with Ed McMahon. You remember Star Search?
Yeah.
We entered that.
Star Search.
And we entered that. It was in 1983 or 4 or something like that. And, we got accepted to play, but obviously we didn't win. We actually, out of 10 finalists for our category, we were something like 4 or 5. I don't remember, but we didn't win that. But we caught the eyes of a producer, Paul Curcio of Atlantic Records, and he was the producer for Metallica's Kill 'Em All, Doobie Brothers, Carlos Santana, REO Speedwagon, Bryan Adams, a lot of guys he produced in New York on Atlantic. And he said, we're interested in you. Could you send us a demo of some more songs? And we did, and they kind of liked him, and they came right out and said, well, we don't think you're major star material, but we think we can sign you and get you a distribution deal, at least get you on some tours and see how it goes. And we ended up doing that in 1986. And our first tour was with Eddie Money, and I toured with him for several months. And eventually our first record went gold. It sold 500,000 copies worldwide, but it was mostly to the college crowd and the underground crowd because we were a little bit more progressive rock. And, I did a lot of touring with people and all that. And then I gave.
Well,
go ahead,
man. I'm a fan of music. Tell me some names that you toured with. Some people you toured with. Always interested to know that.
I toured with Eddie Money. I toured with Bryan Adams.
Cool.
I toured with a band called K's Choice. And then we opened for a lot of bands where we didn't really tour. We would do 2 or 3 shows, on their tour, but it wasn't a major tour. And REO Speedwagon was one. We did that.
Cool.
Yeah, Huey Lewis and the News. And, stuff like that where it was 1-offs, 2-offs. And it was more to promote our band and try to sell more albums, which didn't always happen. But, it was just a good experience. So I've been around the world a few times with doing that. And then
and you're also an airplane pilot, and I guess we're going. I don't know if you were going to start talking about Walker's K.
Yeah, and when I started Walker's K, I got the name from an out island, the northernmost out island in Bahamas called Walker's K. A bunch of my friends and I flew us all to the Bahamas for a week or so just to have some fun. And I love the island, and I said, wow, it's kind of a cool name. It means nothing, but if I ever start a new band, I think I'm going to use that for a name, and that's just what I did. So, yeah.
And talk about Walker's K, man.
Well, Walker's K is actually 2 guys, myself and a guy named Mike Swain, and when we play live, or when we did before COVID, we bring in other musicians and we pay them to rehearse, and then we pay them for the gig. And that way we, like Dave was talking about, we could, we can replicate our music exactly like you hear on our recordings, because Mike and I play everything on the recordings. I'm a drummer by trade, but I played all the drum parts, the bass, all the guitar parts except the leads. I'm not a lead player. I suck at that. So Mike played all the leads, and I sang all the harmonies and the main vocals. And when we go live, we hire people and we say, look, we're going to do this gig. We'll pay you for 10 or 12 rehearsals and plus the gig. And we need, we're bringing in a keyboard player and another guitarist and this and that. And And we do that, and that's how we replicate the songs. But basically, Walker's K right now is just myself and Mike.
Yeah, and you guys did some recording. I think you were number one on Apple Music in South Africa for a few weeks with Walker's K. Let's play one of your songs, Gare, so that people can hear Walker's K.
Okay, that'd be great. I picked out a song called "Tell Me." It's just doesn't mean anything. It's about a guy talking to his girlfriend. The girlfriend's cheating on the guy, and he finds out she's lying when she says she's not cheating. And to be quite honest with you, most of these songs I write in the bathroom. The last 40 songs I've written, it's when I sit down, I take a pad with me, and I come up with an idea. So it is what it is. It's bathroom music, basically. And
sounds like a country song.
Yeah, that's right. It should be. So this is a song called "Tell Me" if you want me to play it.
All right, folks. So we're going to listen to Gary LaBarr's band right now, Walker's K, a song called "Tell Me" on this House of Musicians radio show right here on Reality Radio 101.
This feeling when I look into your eyes. Please tell me what's on your mind. Is it something that reverses your lifetime? Please tell me, 'cause I'm not blind. What you gonna say when you turn around and you walk away? Is it something you can't do, 'cause you know that you can stay? Tell me where you wanna go when I see you leaving, then I will know. Whoa. There's a secret that I know is in your mind. Please tell me that it's not lies. When I see you, I can tell that you're not fine. Please help me, 'cause I'm not blind. Tell me what you're gonna say when you turn around and you walk away. Is it something you can't do, 'cause you know that you can stay? Tell me where you wanna go when I see you leaving, then I will know. Whoa. What you gonna say when you turn around and you walk away? Is it something you can't do, 'cause you know that you can stay? Tell me where you wanna go when I see you leaving, then I will know. Tell me what you gonna say when you leave me now, my baby. Tell me what you gonna do when you slip away. You tell me that you'd always be true. Tell me all the lies you have, so I won't believe you so bad. Tell me all the things you say to blow my mind when you slip away. Whoa.
listeners, welcome back to this House of Musicians radio show. We just heard Walker's K, Gary LaBarr's band, and the song's called Tell Me. Gary, tell me some of your favorite places that you played in the world.
Any place in New York City was always great. Some of the small, well, the crowd, they're always into, they're into live bands. They're into live entertainment. They're more into originality. Like you guys would do good there for original bands. They're not so much into cover stuff. That's more like bars and things. But the rock clubs like CBGBs and all those kind of places is always about originality. So that was really good. The largest show I ever did was in front of 40,000 people with Bryan Adams in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It was an outdoor show.
Wow.
I did in 94. It was either 92 or 94. It was during his Wake the Neighbors tour. And
so how did you feel coming off stage?
Well, good. I mean, I played the average, I'm not bragging or being, but the average audience I played in front of was usually between 8 and 15,000 people. That was the average. But the big one was really big because you're so far away from people. I think at the edge of the stage where the monitors were, and then they have like this video track that they had cameras going back and forth, that kind of stuff. You're a good 50 feet away from barriers of people, so you don't even realize they're there really. So
right.
And then the sound is always horrible because the stage are big, and you guys know from playing, live, you try to get a good monitor mix, but as an opening act, we didn't get the greatest of anything. So you're filling that stage with sound, and it's such a big stage, and you can barely hear this and barely hear that. So there were very good experiences. I'll never forget them, but it's not my cup of tea, to be honest with you, to play something that big.
Right.
So,
no special colored Smarties in your dressing room?
No.
Or M&Ms?
We were lucky if we had water. No. But you know what? You talk about a rider contract. We did. The good news was on these tours, where you saved a little bit of money, they always had catering for the bands and the opening acts, and it was fast food mostly, 99% of the time. But we did get, water and pop and Gatorade and stuff like that. And we also got like facial towels, like dish towels. They would always give us fresh towels to wipe our face and our guitars down and stuff. So that was
beer?
Yeah, there was beer. Yeah, I'm not a big beer drinker when I'm playing, but yeah, there was that. It was mostly water for me, but no, we weren't allowed to have anything in our rider contract like that. No, not at all. They would have laughed at us.
Right, of course, yeah. No, what band was that demanded the M&Ms? Was that Van Halen? No.
Yeah, it was Van Halen, and the only reason
cool.
they did that is because they knew a lot of the promoters weren't reading the riders, so they said, if they catch that particular thing, then they know they read the rider properly. But no, our rider was like one page. Make sure we have a toilet backstage. Yeah, here's a Johnny on the spot. That's what they gave us.
Right. Hey, man, still accomplished a lot more than most in the way of performing in front of 40,000 or 15,000 or whatever. So cahoots to you, Gary. Now you're a world-renowned producer and your radio show you have going on. So good for you, bud.
Well, thanks. I don't know how world-renowned I am, but it's guys like you and Dave that keep us busy and that pay the bills and, have shows and promote. And, quite frankly, Bear, that's what it's about. It's to promote our local talent and people we know. And, they always have projects coming out and things. And that's what we want to do to get it out to the world.
Yeah, and what I'm proud of the most, too, is, Dave does a lot of production on this show as far as YouTube goes and as far as sound and lights go for live interviews that I've done with Terry Draper from Klaatu and live interviews with Ed Pilling and Greg Godovitz and soon to be one with Basil Donovan from Blue Rodeo. I know Baz well, and we were going to do a live intimate afternoon with Basil in one of our friends' bars, the Robert and Matthew Parkinson's bar, Sir Monty's Brewery in right there in Curtis, Ontario. But of course, that got canceled due to obvious circumstances. That got canceled. But it's still going to be a go when everything opens back up. I can't wait. Baz, every time I see Baz, he's got a lovely story to tell. I'm not going to share any with you, but they're just special stories of him being with Blue Rodeo since day one, recording on all the albums, and the places he's been, people he's met, and he loves to tell the stories. So looking forward to doing that soon with Baz, another live interview where Dave will come with his lights and his microphones and all that stuff and record it as well for you for this House of Musicians TV. Guys, what can I say?
Well,
go ahead,
before you end here, there's a kudos to you. I was talking to a producer friend of mine in Chicago a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how things are going, because of COVID, basically, and he was saying that he checked out this House of Musicians online. And he said, is that a locally produced show? And I said, yeah, it's a friend of mine, Barry Smith, and blah, blah, blah. And he was so impressed. He goes, I looked down and looked at all the guests that he's had over the last few months. And he goes, how does a local show of the caliber of just being like a local person, how do you get those type of guests? And he says, the guests you've had on have been amazing. And he says, in Chicago, some of the shows that he works with, they won't even talk to him, some of the agents and stuff. And I said, well, I have nothing to do with that. I said, Barry takes care of all that. He's got contacts and friends that have set that stuff up. So I said, you got to give him the credit because I really don't have anything to do with that. And he couldn't believe it. He's thought for a local show that you're putting on, the people you have on are phenomenal. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you to your friend. And Dave and I consider ourselves very fortunate to be, who would have known, I'm 56 years old, who would have known this is the 89th show that we've done. Of course, we do it every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Who would have known that I would have talked to some of the most popular people in Canada, and they'd say, send them emails or get in touch with them. Of course, I'm in contact with Eric Elper via email and phone once in a while, and he's a very popular promotion. What's the word I'm looking for here? He promotes a lot of bands and singers, and is always sending me emails. And he's gotten me a lot of very popular people on this show. So cahoots to Eric Alper. Thank you for his help. He's pretty popular. Everybody, all the musicians know who he is, and he promotes a lot of musicians. So he's helped, but a lot of them was hard work on behalf of myself and just reaching out to some of these popular people in Canada and in the United States, and them saying, nobody's more in awe than me, Gary and Dave. Nobody's more in awe than me that I would reach out to these people and they would say, sure, I'll do your show.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Yeah, man. I've done a couple of shows, guys, where I was nervous because I couldn't believe who the guest was. Like, if people go on YouTube and scroll through the video section of this House of Musicians TV, I was really nervous because I'm like, I can't believe, 56, I was listening to this stuff growing up, and it's all over the radio. We've had a couple artists where every fourth song on the radio or 3 times a day driving in your car, you're going to hear, the band playing on the radio. So nobody's more in awe than myself, and very fortunate, very lucky, and very happy to do this show. So, Dave Clayton, tell me some stuff, bro. You've been awfully quiet there. Are you catching a little glow now? I know you were having a nip for Al.
Yeah. No, pardon me.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, plop going down the wrong pipe. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
I was actually just looking through some old pictures and whatnot, doing that from time to time, but
reminiscing.
Yeah, just completely lost my train of thought. I think talking about, in my experience, like I haven't had the exposure to the artists you've had on that you have, obviously. I mean, I listen along a lot of the time and send in the odd email and stuff, and been filmed the Basil interviews and stuff. But I think one thing that strikes me is about a lot of the guys that you get on, especially the Canadian artists, and maybe it speaks to who we are as a nation or whatever, or the stereotype. But I'm amazed oftentimes at how humble they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's guys like Murray McLaughlin or Godovich or whatever. Like like Gary said, you've had some fairly big names on, and almost to a man, as it appears to me anyway. You know, from the outside, they're just humble guys, eager to tell their stories because, you know, for whatever reason. And I think that's why we do it. I think we enjoy hearing the stories as much as they enjoy telling them. I mean, God knows we're not doing this to get rich. So, you know, I think that's what I'm in it for anyway. I get a kick out of meeting these guys and shaking their hands and listening to the stories. Like you said, Basil there couldn't be anyone more eager to tell the stories, and there couldn't be anyone more eager than me to hear them. You know, he tells stories of a life that I never led and never will leave. You know,
what a storyteller though, the way he tells them too, Baz.
Yeah. What was that?
Well, I don't want to share the one with Glenn Fry. Was it Glenn Fry?
The one with Levon Helm.
Yep.
That's the one that sticks out in my mind, right? It's the experiences the guys had are just phenomenal. And so you sit there and listen to them and try to put yourself in his shoes, and it's like, oh my God. Oh my God. It's
amazing. And we're going to do a 2-hour live interview with him in a nice intimate setting. Tickets will be $20 in Curtis. I think the max is 80 capacity seating, and you'll be face to face with Baz and listen to his stories. And he's very approachable. He's just an amazing, wonderful soul. And speaking of humble, one of the shows that stands out in my mind is talking to Krista Berg. He was in Ireland, and I did an interview with him, which is also on this House of Musicians TV, and talk about a humble, nice guy, Krista Berg. I mean, that's something that I want the folks that interview to check out. What a wonderful human being he is. So there's so many more that I could speak of that has done this show. And again, like I say, nobody's more and are humbled than I am to be able to reach out to these folks. And just like the guest that was going to be on tonight, founder of Brighton Rock, Greg Fraser, just amazing to have guys like that come on the show, and we're going to reschedule him. But just I'm just overwhelmed that these folks say yeah, and I interview them for the hour. It really is a highlight of my life. So cahoots to Gary and to you for making this happen.
Thank you, Barry.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us on.
Ride, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Any parting words, Dave?
No, man, take it easy. And like I said, raise a glass for Al tonight.
I will do that. Gary, closing words, my friend?
No, just a thank you for folks listening around the world that we see you are. Thank you again for supporting this House of Musicians with Barry Smith.
Oh, well, thank you, Gary. And again, thanks to all the folks that do listen. And we'll continue to do the show every Tuesday. Folks, if you go to this House of Musicians TV, you can listen to, tonight will be the 89th show that we've done together with musicians from around the world, mostly Canadians, as Dave said, but from around the world. So thank you all for listening. And also to the listener, I say thank you for being here, and always dance and sing. Let the music bring your soul to the surface for all the world to see. Until next time, have a shuffle your feet kind of week, and good night. You've been listening to This House of Musicians on Reality Radio 101.